Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube page. It's been a while since I've posted a video on here. I come to you today with a particular story that I wanted to tell that I think offers us some intriguing wisdom on the subject of taming dragons. So this story comes from our Eastern Sisters and Brothers, and it's a story that I'm sure many of you have heard before, maybe lots of times before. So it comes from the story of Siddhartha Gautama, the man who is to become the Buddha. And the part of the story that I wanted to focus on starts with his journey to the Bodhi tree when he makes the decision to sit down at the foot of that tree and very determinedly decides he is not going to get up from that tree until he achieves his goal of enlightenment. Which, as I'm sure you can well imagine, was a pretty big trial for him since it took him a while to accomplish that task. And also considering the fact that at night, Mara, sort of the god of anger, lust, jealousy, attachment, greed, all of those kinds of things, would bring his army of 10,000 demons to attack Siddhartha every single night. To try to dissuade him from his quest, to try to tempt him away from completing his goal of achieving enlightenment. And each arrow symbolized some form of temptation that was designed to do just that. And Mara hurled any and every temptation he could possibly think of towards Siddhartha to get him to get up and abandon his quest to discover enlightenment. So, Siddhartha, however, as we know, does not budge from that tree. And as each of the arrows that Mara and the demons shoot at him get close to him, rather than regarding them with anger and trepidation, he regards them instead with acceptance and compassion. And it is through this act of regarding them that way that he transforms every single arrow that gets close to him as a flower that falls to his feet. One morning, Siddhartha wakes up, having finally achieved enlightenment, only to discover an almost endless field of fallen flowers as far as he can see all around him. So, as the story goes, Siddhartha from there goes out into the world to teach his wisdom, to gather his disciples, and share his vision of what he has learned with anybody who's willing to listen to him about the path towards achieving enlightenment. And periodically, when he was talking or teaching to a crowd of people, he would notice Mara kind of show up in the background, walking around back and forth, kind of slinking around and giving him the little evil eye. Just kind of letting him know, hey, I'm still here. And it was on one of these occasions that Siddhartha had a realization, kind of an epiphany of sorts. And the epiphany was, you know, it doesn't matter how many times I defeat Mara. Mara just keeps coming back. So, Siddhartha had a decision to make. And he thought to himself, well, I can either continue to wage endless war with Mara and try to destroy him completely, which was not possible, or I can bring out a cup of tea for both of us to sit down, drink tea, and have a conversation with each other, which is what he did. And from that moment on, every single time Mara made an appearance with Siddhartha, his response was always the same. Hello, Mara. I see you. Let's have tea. So in the tradition of Buddhism, all human suffering is attributed to attachment, and not just attachment to things or even to people, but more so attachment to certain ways of being in the world, ideas, beliefs, expectations, ways of thinking, stories that we're telling about ourselves, even certain ways of trying to achieve happiness and enlightenment could be a form of attachment that would bring human suffering and pain. And Mara in the story is sort of the embodiment of that attachment, or in the temptations that kind of lure us back to those attachments and get us distracted and get us to try to abandon our quests for our own growth and our own enlightenment, as it were. I think in modern terms we can maybe describe Mara as akin to the human ego. And this is the part of ourselves that gets attached to things very, very quickly and also has a very, very difficult time letting go of what it gets attached to. And, and it's also helpful to remember that the ego is the part of us that is protecting whatever predominant story that we have learned to tell about ourselves, good or bad, helpful or unhelpful. That is also the part that our ego protects. And so we hold on to things, and we have a hard time letting them go. Even if those things might be painful or hurting us in some way, we hold on to them just simply because they are familiar to us. And this is kind of the sadness and the pain that attachment keeps us stuck in, according to Buddhism. Buddhism's way of kind of framing how that works. So Siddhartha has some wisdom, I think, to share with all of us here. We can continue to wage endless war with all the different forms of Mara that show up inside of us, what I have learned to call our dragons, what some might call our inner demons, or 100,000 other names across the globe that people have sort of attached to whatever that phenomenon is. However we define it, whatever we choose to call it, okay? And Siddhartha understood that the path towards enlightenment is not in the eradication of these things that cause us trouble, these things that hurt, or just simply challenge us in very uncomfortable ways. It's not through the absence of those things that we achieve enlightenment. It's through the simple acknowledgement of them. I see you. I see that you're there. Now that I can accept that you exist, are we going to fight, or are we going to sit down and have tea with each other? And that's the lesson that Siddhartha discovers for himself in this part of the story and has to teach us. So that's the question of the day. Are we going to continue to wage war on our inner demons and our inner dragons? Or can we learn to sit down and have a cup of tea? Thanks for tuning in. I hope this is helpful, beneficial to you, inspiring perhaps in some way. I look forward to you coming back and seeing further videos as we move ahead. Happy dragon taming to all of you, and many blessings.